BSPN podcast, along with Jeremy Bell and Mike Bergner. I'm Brett
Hello there.
Mallinwood.
Thanks for sticking
Tonight
with us, guys.
with, we start with the NBA, the NBA draft. Take it away, Jeremy.
Yeah, well, we knew the first pick for a while, Karl Anthony Towns out of Kentucky. The best player in the draft, or maybe not. The Timberwolves may take a lot of flack for passing on Jahlil Okafor in the future. A lot of people thought Okafor is going to be a better pro. Personally, I think Okafor is going to be a lot better than Towns in the pro. And Anthony Bennett, he kind of is not so great, but he was drafted number 1 2 years ago, and he's on the team. They still have Rubio. What do you guys think about Karl Anthony Towns at number 1?
I think it's interesting for sure. When you look at it, you're right. The Timberwolves have had like 4 of the last 5 first number 1 picks and haven't really come away with anybody like you would expect. But I think the interesting thing with Karl Anthony Towns going there is that they did get Kevin Garnett back. So I think Garnett will be a great mentor for this young kid.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's talk about Okafor a little bit. The 76ers have made some interesting moves over the past few seasons. They've been acquiring a bunch of big men. So now they have Nerlens Noel, Joel Embiid, who is still maybe injured. So it seems like a team that, even though they've been acquiring a lot of picks, a lot of young players, it doesn't seem like a team that's going to be winning for a while.
Yeah, well, they had 6 picks in this draft, Jeremy. So many picks for just 2 rounds of players. They picked 2 big men, someone to back up Okafor. I don't really think you'll need to because, like you said, I think he is NBA ready.
Yeah, I think the pick was probably not what they needed. I thought he was going to fall to the Knicks. He didn't, though. They ended up picking, what do they have now, 6 centers in 2 rounds that they picked. So I'm not sure that he'll make an impact. It's a crowded paint, though.
Yeah, well, Okafor is going to make an impact. He's going to play right away if he's still on the 76ers when the season starts.
The interesting thing is that 1 pick down, Kristaps Porzingis, 7'2", listed as a power forward. That'd be the biggest power forward I've ever seen. So he'll definitely be transitioning to center. Whether he can body up people in the NBA.
Yeah, he's a project. He's a shooter. He's a big frame, like you mentioned, 7'2". Probably doesn't play a lot of defense. A lot of the international players don't.
Which is unfortunate because the Knicks really need defense. They have people who shoot the ball already.
Yeah, but the Knicks are not done.
Do you guys agree that the pick was not really what they needed right now, considering trying to win now, and please Carmelo?
I would think that Carmelo is happy with the pick because it's a big man. It's a big threat to get people off of his back on the court, which is what he wants. He wants the free space while he's playing so that he can take the 30 to 40 shots a game that he wants to take.
Yeah, a lot of Knicks fans were upset with the pick. I'm a Knicks fan. I'm not upset with the pick. In that position, I was really hoping, praying that Okafor would fall down to number 4. If the Knicks had gotten Okafor, that's a team that you bring in Greg Monroe, who people are talking about. You bring in Aaron Aflalo. You have, obviously, Carmelo Anthony. That's a team that's actually going to play some good basketball in the Eastern Conference if you had gotten Okafor. Porzingis, he's not going to be NBA ready yet. In a few years, he will be. But, yeah, the Knicks are going to have to acquire some more free agents and see what they can do this season, try to stay afloat, and then get all these young players going in the future.
There's definitely a lot of people this year going to free agency that are good. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but Goran Dragic's an unrestricted free agent this year. Dwayne Wade just denied his contract. So you never know.
Yeah, we can get to the free agents. Let's talk a little more about the draft. Picks 5 through 8.
Okay.
You had some interesting moves. Willie Cauley-Stein going to the Kings.
Right.
DeMarcus Cousins could be on the way out.
I don't know. I wouldn't do that to Cousins. I can see how they might be thinking they want to trade him. but he's been such a strong part of their offense for the last 2 years. I think
Brett?
he averages a double-double, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, Boogie Cousins
Yeah,
has
it's
been
an
one of the
interesting
best players,
situation
on the inside.
with Cousins because he's talking about that he might leave, and you kind of saw it with Carmelo a little bit this week. Bad mouthing his coaches, bad mouthing his general manager. They, there was an interesting article that came out, New York Post and Daily News as well. Is it time to trade Carmelo? Because basically he's bad mouthing these guys. Is it time to start over? You could probably get a lot of value for him now. Would you guys do it?
It depends on the trade that we'd be offered. I wouldn't be opposed to getting rid of Carmelo, though, if I were the Knicks.
I would not trade Carmelo Anthony. You're not giving up your best player when he seems to have bought into the system. And that's important for Carmelo Anthony because this is a guy who, when he was in Denver, he was a part of that team. He wanted to win, but it didn't ever seem like he really bought in. And I think Carmelo Anthony wants to be in New York. He's buying into the system, and he wants to win. He's ready to win, so you have to keep him on board.
Well, of course he's buying into the system and wants to be in New York. He went to Syracuse. He wants to stay here. This is where his fans are. But as far as buying into the system, I think it's just something that he's doing for now, and I'm not really sure if he's going to keep it up throughout the season. I know he got injured and didn't play the second half of the season this year, so it's hard to tell how he would have ended up. But, I guess maybe that injury did give him some time to think.
Yeah, so moving on to a few more of the lottery picks. Frank Kaminsky went number 9 to the Hornets. An interesting pick going in the top 10. What do you guys think about Kaminsky?
Well, he was the Badgers' go-to guy, leading scorer in the NCAA. He's 7 feet tall. He's a big guy.
Player of the year.
Yeah, something that Charlotte needs for sure. A good balance for Kemba Walker. Someone they'll be able to pass to. They'll still have Jefferson down low, but maybe Kaminsky will be a strong power forward option.
Yeah, Kaminsky was definitely a great pick. Another guy that one of those teams like the Kings could have used, or the Knicks. He's a good shooting big man. They keep comparing him to like a Dirk Nowitzki. He could shoot from outside. I think he's going to make an impact in this league. He really will.
Yeah, I don't see him reaching the level of Nowitzki.
It's surprising to see that his teammate Sam Decker went in the top 20. I really wasn't expecting that. I'm guessing his performance in the tournament helped that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, well, your play in the tournament helps a lot when you move on to the draft because those are the games that everyone in the world is watching those games, and you can really make a name for yourself. And I know Justice Winslow had a great season, but also his performance, in the Final Four, in the championship, that propelled him to be, a top 10 pick. Yeah, but Sam Decker, it's a good pick for the Rockets. I like it. I think he fits in there. He's a wing. You could always use a good slashing wing, and we'll see if his three-point shot translates to the NBA.
Okay, I can see that. And they're definitely not getting someone who's going to get into trouble media-wise with him. As I'm sure you guys saw this week, the picture of him mowing his lawn still at home, even though he's now in the NBA.
Yeah, let's hope. You never
What do you
know,
think?
right?
What do you think was the most, I guess I would say, disappointing or surprising pick of the draft, either in round 1 or 2? Who do you think didn't do what they needed to do with the draft?
It's got to be the Sixers for me because they were supposed to get some point guards, some shooting guards, and then it ended up drafting, 4 or 5 different big guys. So for me, that their team need coming into the draft was draft some guards, and they didn't do that.
What about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, the most surprising pick for me had to be Terry Rozier going at 16 to the Celtics. They have a lot of backcourt players. They still have Evan Turner.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Isaiah Thomas. Then you have Avery Bradley. So you're adding him to a crowded backcourt already, and it's a guy who, like you said, Decker doesn't have any problems, or he hasn't had any problems in college. Terry Rozier had to sit out, I think, the tournament, right, for Louisville, or at
Yep.
least most of the season with an off the court issue. So it seems like I'm not really sure how it will work out. But Rozier's a scorer, so you can always use a
Mhm.
scorer in the NBA.
Yeah, I would probably have to say that the Bulls underperformed the most for me in the draft, going with a power forward in the first round. They already have 5 power forwards on their roster. One of them is Pau Gasol, so I guess unless they've really kind of counted Pau out, I don't think there was a need for them to pick up that power forward in the first round. Could have used it on someone like a point guard. I know they're still high on Derrick Rose, but I still don't think his comeback. This is going to be his final comeback. He'll probably be out again next year. I would have stacked up on point guards.
All right, well, all of this we have to consider with a grain of salt because we have to talk about free agency. So a lot of these teams are
True.
still going to be making moves that the draft, might not matter as much for a lot of the later picks. They could be on the move.
He'll be
Interesting
back.
name that I see is Jimmy Butler. He already came out and said that he wants to sign with the Lakers for 1 year. This is a guy who, is still young, out of Marquette, was known for his defense, and then he comes out last season. He's an offensive powerhouse for the Bulls, all around their best player last season. So if you bring him on a team like the Lakers, they could use him because we know Kobe doesn't play a ton of defense.
That's true, but
Jimmy Butler. Another big look at LaMarcus Aldridge. He's leaving Portland.
I think it's about time.
Yeah, I mean, he's been there a few seasons. They haven't done a lot of winning. Their past few seasons, they did better than they had, but you can't really make a run in the West without a stacked team. It's so deep.
Right, and everyone wants to call him a superstar, but his team hasn't proven it. So hopefully, moving on to a better team, like let's say I don't know who's looking to pick him up, maybe the Kings.
Yeah, possible destinations for Aldridge include the Kings, the Mavs, the Lakers. Of course, you got to say the Knicks because they have a lot of money, a lot of cap room.
True.
The Mavs seem likely because they could use him. It would be interesting to see how he would play with Dirk in the front court, but you could try to make that work.
Yeah.
Seems like he won't be back with the Cavs.
No, I would think,
with the Clippers.
I would think LaMarcus would go to either the Kings. The Kings would pay a lot for him. But on the other hand, I don't really see him coming to New York. If he does, I'd be surprised just because it'd be so much like when Stoudemire came to New York. Same type player.
Well, let's talk about some people that will be on the Cavs.
Okay.
LeBron James.
Yeah, he'll be back.
I don't think the Cavs.
I don't think he can handle burning that bridge twice. Plus, they got to the finals.
He needs to come back. He's the guy who needs to deliver a championship to Cleveland. And he can do it. But he needs a little more help.
I know Kevin Love got hurt, and if Kevin Love hadn't gotten hurt, the championship would have been a totally different series. So I don't think he needs more help. I just think that help needs to stay healthy. They need a deeper roster. They can't have LeBron playing 35 minutes a game, Kevin Love playing 35 minutes a game. By the end of the season, they're going to be done. So they need to go deeper into their bench this season, I think, if they want to have a chance.
Yeah, when the whole Kevin Love thing first happened, my first thought was why. They traded the first pick in the draft, Andrew Wiggins, which now the move looks awful from a Cleveland perspective. Cleveland fans complaining about Love. He couldn't get it done. And Now you're looking. He might bolt go to LA. He might bolt go to Boston, and so they're not really sure. But think about what this team could have been at Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, and Andrew Wiggins.
I think Love brings more to the game. Wiggins is young. Wiggins does not really play defense. He's a pure offensive.
You don't really know how that was going to work out because then you don't know what they're going to do. Were they going to go out and get Mozgov? They would have needed a better center probably for most of the season. Wiggins, he might not have developed the way he had if he had LeBron there and Wiggins was backing him up. Maybe not even starting. You don't know if they would have went out and got J.R. Smith, their second best player in the postseason. So a lot of things could have changed. I think the Cavs need to bring in another one of those role players. Maybe go after a guy like Wesley Matthews, a shooter, but he also defends. So LeBron doesn't have to play defense, by himself. So he doesn't have to play both sides of the ball as hard as he does, which I think wears him down. You could bring in a guy like Danny Green, a great three-point shooter. If you can pry him away from the Spurs, that's going to be tough because it seems like Danny Green is just a perfect fit with the Spurs.
Yeah, I don't see it.
You could try to bring in Dwayne Wade. Could you imagine?
That'd just be too funny.
But would it?
It would really be too
It seems
funny.
like that could happen.
You think that's why Wade left?
I don't know that's why he left.
He wants to be signed?
But it seems like a good fit.
I mean, certainly they've worked together before and won a championship.
I'll say it on air in our first official podcast. It's happening.
It would be
unfair.
Unfair.
You can't rule it unfair. Kevin Love is no better than Chris Bosh. All right, that's a lie.
The whole thing would be unfair. but I could totally see it happening. Wade was supposed to make $12 million this year. He's not going to make that. He's probably not going to make near that right now. He's hasn't had what he used to. But the Cavs would have cap room. The Cavs could go out and get him. That would be a pretty super team.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of teams that are going to be anemic after this year, based on the look of how many unrestricted free agents there are. Some teams like Portland, the Knicks, the Cavs, half of their roster is on unrestricted free agency right now. That the most interesting person to watch, obviously outside of the big names, on the free agents list would be either Brook Lopez or Marc Gasol. See where they end up.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. The Nets are obviously sellers at this point. They're trying to get rid of Joe Johnson. They already got rid of Mason Plumlee. They could be getting rid of Darren Williams and possibly Brook Lopez as well. So that team could be stripped from the inside. Their roster would be, a lot of young guys, a lot of random guys like Thaddeus Young and Markel Brown.
Yeah.
So the Nets, they have some interesting moves to make. Another move for the Knicks that I think they should make, they got to bring in Rajon Rondo.
Okay.
It's time.
He's looking for somewhere to go.
They've been flirting with Rondo for the past couple of seasons, and I think they need to bring him in. He's got to do some flashy passes, and he's got to get this team reinvigorated. He didn't want to play in Dallas, it was clear. Boston, he had a falling out with. I think he would want to play in New York. He wants to get back to his stardom that he did have a couple years ago. I think it's a good fit.
Alrighty. Now, moving on to baseball, we're coming up to the All-Star break, only about 20 days away, 20 days away from the All-Star break. Very exciting. The AL East is one of the closest races right now.
Yeah, all the good teams in the American League are in the American League East.
Yeah.
You've got Baltimore 41 wins, Tampa Bay 42 wins, Yankees 41 wins, Toronto 41 wins. The rest of the American League, only 2 teams with more than 41 wins. The American League East is a powerhouse, and it's been like that for
you say
long
that.
time. Tampa Bay is a huge surprise.
I think
the way they're playing.
all of them are a huge surprise. I did not expect 3 out of those 14 to have 40 wins to this point in the season.
So you would have said Baltimore is the only team that you expected?
I would have said Baltimore could have had 40 wins to this point in the season. I did not expect the Yankees to have 40 wins, nor the Rays, nor the Blue Jays. I just didn't see it happening. And I definitely didn't see Boston being way back in last place there this season. They made so many moves in the offseason. They were going to look like a powerhouse. What happened?
Yeah, Boston kind of did the thing that they did 2 years ago when they brought in, who did they bring in? Adrian Gonzalez, a bunch of people, Shane Victorino.
Right.
Yeah, they had a lot of stars that year, and they were very good. And it seems like you talk about the teams like the Kansas City Royals who have chemistry and who maybe don't have all the star players,
Right.
but get the job done on the field.
Yeah.
And Boston doesn't have that.
I agree with that. The big names canceling each other out because they just can't get along. Definitely a real thing.
But we got to talk about the biggest surprise in the entire MLB this season. The Houston Astros are back.
I know. It's unreal, Jeremy and Brett. It's really unreal. They have the most second most wins in all of MLB after the last 2 seasons with 100+ losses.
Yep.
I mean, I don't even. They almost can't get 100 losses already, and we're almost to the All-Star, and we're 20 days from the All-Star break.
And it's still a young team. They
Yeah.
still have prospects that they're going to be able to call up this season, next season. They already brought up Correa. They brought up Springer last season.
You know what?
They're bringing up pitchers like Lance Millers, who's pitched. So this is a team that right now is built to win. They're built to win in the future. It just seems like they have it going on.
And they did it right. They did their time. They took the shit list and whatever, but they knew where they were heading, and it's working out real well for them.
Yeah, in baseball, a lot of times you lose to win.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
It's true.
And it worked.
I got to tell you, Jose Altuve out there, being a big help out there on the bases, getting a lot of steals, getting on base.
Yeah, he's a legend.
He's really coming to his own this season.
Yep. Surprise out of the AL Central, Minnesota Twins with 40 wins, ahead of Detroit by a game in that Central Division. Minnesota is a shock. Maybe not as much as the Astros, but still a pretty big shock in their own right.
Yeah, definitely. It seems to just be that. That they're just, they're just an overall good team. They don't have anything, exciting about them. Not one of their pitchers is doing fantastic. Not one of their hitters is really up there. They're just chugging along. I would say it's surprising, but they're never a bad team.
Yeah, you have guys like Torrey Hunter, who is a veteran, who is really leading that clubhouse of young players. You called up Byron Buxton a couple weeks ago, and he hasn't been playing well yet, but he's going to contribute for them. The pitching staff, I don't think they're going to last, but for now it's working, and they're winning ball games, and like I said, that's what you have to do.
Mm-hmm. I would honestly say a big surprise, maybe not a big surprise, is looking down at the Central and just the Cardinals' dominance. And actually, let's move into the National League East. The Mets, 2.5 games back of the Nationals, but the Mets certainly not playing like a second-place team.
Steven Matz is a huge boost to a already healthy front staff, and I believe that by adding him, Mets have now turned themselves back into a contender. Yes, I said it, a contender.
All right. What do you think about them wanting to?
I think that they're growing. I think that they need to get rid of him. Sell him to the best bidder, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think John Neese is gone. You have these young pitchers who are coming up and are pitching really well. Syndergaard has been great. Steven Matz, if he continues to pitch like that, he's going to be great and hit like that. I mean, that's incredible. The Mets, I have enough offense that you're going to need when you're playing teams like St. Louis, Pittsburgh, even the Cubs now with Chris Bryant. I mean, a legend, am I right? I did call that.
He is holding his own right
I
now.
did call Chris Bryant.
He's holding his own.
So I take all the credit for that.
There is nothing ridiculous about his stats. He's holding his own. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
He's like one of the best players in the league statistically since he got called up.
Do you know what his stats are?
Let's bring him up.
He's batting .273. He's got 10 home runs and 43 RBIs.
Incredible.
All right. Not one of the statistically best.
So he's in the Hall of Fame.
No, okay. Sure. I mean, the top 5 batting averages in his league start at 353 and go down to 317. So he's 40 points off there. You got to have at least 20 home runs to be in the top for the NL. And RBIs, all right, he's 10 off on RBIs. Bryce Harper is having his standout year so far.
Yeah, Bryce Harper is the reason that the Nationals are as good as they are right now. Probably the only reason.
He is doing everything right now.
He is carrying the team.
Yeah, your guy Chris Bryant over there. He might be a potential Hall of Famer with his stats, but you take a look at his rings. Did Derek Jeter, how many did Derek Jeter have, and how many does Chris Bryant could have?
Oh, did any of you two see this article going around about how Derek Jeter used like a miracle drug or whatever? Did anyone see that? You got to see, like, there were tons of like people commenting on it. There were over like 20,000 comments on this article, and a lot of it was like, I'm a Red Sox fan and I would never deface Jeter like this. He's like the greatest thing that happened to the sport. So it's just interesting to see how much one player can impact the sport.
Yeah, Jeter's one of those players that I feel like people don't really hate him, but you're either in love with him or you can kind of do without him. He hasn't really been a part of the Yankees organization since he retired. He's not really like going to games, going to Old Timers Day. He's not really into it, so that's kind of a knock on him. This franchise that gave him everything, the fans that gave him everything for all these years, and now he's just kind of leaving and he's done with it.
Well, all right. I mean, what do you really want from him right now? He's young. He still has a long time to go. He could be a coach.
Johnny Damon went to Old Timers Day. I love Johnny Damon. I love Johnny Damon for being a Yankee and for being proud of it. Derek Jeter should go to that and be proud that he was a Yankee, that he won all those championships with the Yankees, and that they gave everything to him.
Are you even allowed to go to Old Timers game 1 year after you retired?
Probably.
No, probably not. Well,
probably you can.
Of course you're allowed.
I'm sure you could show up. I don't think they would want you to play, though.
He probably wants to stay out for a couple of years. I'm sure down the line, 2-3 years, we'll see him play an Old Timers Day. He just gave up the game. He's not suddenly going to come back to it. We did see him show up, though, for when they retired the number of Bernie Williams, and so he was there for his buddy, and he's trying to stay out of the game. He's keeping his Players Tribune going, and that's really how he's doing his business right now.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it seems like you guys are making a lot of excuses for Derek Jeter.
Now, Jeremy, if you want to craft talk Derek Jeter here, at least bring up the fact that he went Dutch with his girlfriend on a check. Did anyone see that? He went out with a supermodel and went Dutch on the check, and people are trying to be like, he's a millionaire. Why is he going Dutch with some girl? He should be like the right to pay. I mean, it's just crazy. So if you want to call him out on something, call him out on that chivalry. But anyways, let's get back into current news, guys. I mean, so who do you think is going to be all-star pitchers, starting pitchers for the All-Star game?
Well, for the American League, it's got to be someone from the Royals. Because the way the fans vote in Kansas City,
All right.
it's going to be the Royals in the All-Star game.
Okay, fine. Who do you think should get it, though?
All right. You're going to like this pick.
All right.
My American League starting pitcher is Chris Sale.
I don't.
The modern day Randy Johnson.
I don't hate that pick.
You gotta love it.
I think a Kansas City pitcher is more likely to get it than that. But
For me, it's got to be Felix Hernandez. You guys 10-4. He's the most wins in the AL right now.
yeah, classic choice.
He's got to be it. For
Classic
the other
choice.
guys, though, it's got to be Cole on the Pirates. The guy's been pitching lights out. He's 11-3 at 2.16 ERA in 15 games. So he's doing pretty good.
Garrett Cole?
Yeah.
All right. I can guarantee you the starter for the National League is going to be Max Scherzer. He threw a no-hitter. He was like one pitch away from a perfect game. He almost had back-to-back no-hitters. He's the best pitcher in the game. He's the best pitcher of our generation. And he's going to lead he's going to throw a no-hitter in the All-Star game.
Whoa! All right, Jeremy. Best pitcher of our generation.
Who's better?
A little guy in the Dodgers. He played in Kershaw.
He's
that guy named Roy Halladay, who has.
Oh my God!
He totally blanked on Roy
He's not
Halladay.
putting up the numbers that Scherzer's putting up this season. If this continues for Scherzer, it's going to be the best statistical season that we might ever see.
Oh, but how many perfect games is Halladay thrown compared to Scherzer?
No one's
How many?
perfect
One?
games are pointless. Perfect games are pointless.
In the playoffs.
That's
So, Mike,
not
Who's going to be the starting pitcher for the National League?
I don't think it's not. I do think it could be Scherzer. That doesn't make him the best pitcher of our generation. Although Zach Greinke is having a better season right now.
Not statistically.
ERA, yeah.
Guys, the way that's
ERA
not
is
how
the
it's
only thing
gonna
that
end up
matters.
happening.
Scherzer's whip is .79. He doesn't allow
Yeah.
base runners.
That's
he gets
great.
everybody out.
That's great.
And he doesn't
ERA is
walk
the only
people.
thing that matters.
They're going to end up putting Scherzer on a Sunday. He's not going to even pitch the All-Star game, which is why I say Garrett Cole, because it's typical of Pittsburgh to say, oh, we got a marketing play out of that. So from a marketing standpoint,
All right.
Garrett Cole. From a baseball standpoint, Max Scherzer will pitch on the Sunday before, like every other top ace.
Brett's thinking logically here. Okay. Well, all right. We're about halfway through the season. We'll revisit this later. But do you think any team here can turn it around right now that's doing poorly? Whether it be the Padres, the Brewers, the Athletics. Who do you think? Turn it around by the All-Star break, who will be hot?
Well, I kind of called it again with the Padres. I said they were going to start out hot and then sort of cool down.
Yeah, 60 wins first half.
So I didn't exactly call it, but I kind of did. I don't really know if they're going to turn it around completely, but the team that I could see making some moves would be the Marlins. You're going to get Jose Fernandez back, and that guy is going to win a bunch of games. I think he's going to come back right away. He's going to be dominant,
Okay.
and he's going to be the ace of their pitching staff, what they desperately needed all season. Giancarlo Stanton, obviously he's out, but if he comes back a little bit ahead of his timetable, maybe after a month, they could get up to 70-something wins. They're not going to make the playoffs, but it's still turning it around, in my opinion. The Cincinnati Reds have to turn it around. They have too much talent to be in this position, 34-40 right now. Todd Frazier, he should be starting the All-Star game for the National League. The problem for them is going to be if they start selling their players and if Johnny Cueto leaves, because if he leaves, they're probably finishing last in that division.
Okay. All right. Brett, who do you think will turn it around this season so far, up until the All-Star break?
I mean, I think Seattle right now is a team that has gone under 500 that shouldn't really be there. They've been over 500 in the last couple seasons. Headed into the All-Star break, and they've kind of just fallen flat. They could be a team that can trade at the trade deadline. Also, Detroit, who they're 3 games over 500. They don't belong there. They're a team that could also make some deals. They've been known to make some good trades, as well as Texas, who while they're at 5, don't belong there. They're with the Houston Astros, who for no reason are in first place. They do deserve it though, but for no reason they're in first place. Come on, they're the Houston Astros.
Yeah, they paid their dues. They had 114 losses last season.
Yeah,
for 114 wins.
Well, there you go. You could argue that.
But all right.
There's a couple different teams that can make some deadline deals. Cole Hamels though, where is Cole Hamels going to go?
Oh man, I forgot he's still undecided. I don't know, but the Athletics have for me. They're going to make the biggest turnaround this season. I know they're probably one of the worst teams in baseball right now when you look at just their record, but their differential, they're plus 50. They've given up 50 less runs than they've scored. So there's something not translating there that's going to click eventually. Sorry, they're plus 40. But there's something just not clicking there that will eventually click. And when they do, I think they'll be able to make a run to the top of their division.
All right, now let's take a look the other way. Which team do you think is going to fall flat?
All right, I think the team that's going to fall flat the most this season, I hate to say it, I don't think the Dodgers are going to keep it up all year. Greinke's doing fantastic for him, but I just don't see them sustaining this pace throughout the season. They're going to end up 85 wins, probably in second place, 4 games back in their division.
Well, the team I see dropping off has got to be Tampa Bay. The Rays have been overperforming all season due to their pitching. It's not going to last. Too many young arms. And the offense has been good, but you're not getting contributions from your best player, Evan Longoria. He hasn't been the player that he usually has been. I don't think they can sustain the offense, especially in the American League East, where Toronto's getting better. The Yankees are, staying on pace. Tampa's going to fall off. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to make the wild card. And they're going to probably be ahead of Boston, but I don't see them going far.
Okay. Brett?
Yeah, that was probably my team too. For the sake of the argument, I guess I could say the Cubs because they're the Cubs. They always seem to fall flat at the end. Something that their fans have grown used to. But I don't know. I'd probably say the Tampa Bay Rays because they're in a division right now with 2 other hot teams, the Yankees and the Orioles. So I see them falling flat.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for your input. This has been a great first podcast of BSPN. Hope everyone listening has enjoyed this. We'll hope to have you guys listen in next week. Thanks for listening, guys.